Now at 6, high school sports in the area will look a bit different next year.
Conferences for the next 5 years are getting finalized. The State Athletic Association releasing its final draft of leagues for all sports. WUCT's Connor Smith joins us now with details on what to expect. Connor, how does this impact our schools?
Well, the goal with this realignment is to have schools grouped up with others that are about the same size, and the schools hope that means better competition and shorter travel for all of their sports.
The teams taking the field, court, and anywhere in between at your nearby high school are going to look a little different next season. The State Athletic Association putting the final touches on conferences for the next 5 years. Pender County Schools Athletic Director Matt Davis says they've done a good job.
Pretty much everybody's excited about the new conference. They like what they see. It should provide some competitive balance and much closer rides.
For the first time, North Carolina has schools across 8 classes. Schools split up based on student enrollment, but making leagues in our region is certainly a challenge. That's why Whiteville High School is in a conference with schools covering 3 different counties.
You're not going to get the best of both worlds all the time. You know, you're either going to play teams in your conference that have almost the same ADMs, or you may have to travel to get that.
Wolfpack head coach J.P. Price says he's happy with how competition and travel looks in this conference. It includes bigger schools like South Brunswick, the Cougars splitting from the rest of the New Hanover and Brunswick County schools. Price says Whiteville is ready to meet those teams on the field.
We do have to play, 4A and 5A schools, which is only going to make us better, hopefully, heading into the playoffs.
Davis says this league means Pender and Trask can put more points on the scoreboard. Travel times to games could also be cut in half, all the result of the increase in classes.
It does shrink down the gap from the biggest school in a classification to the smallest school, and we're excited about the balance that it brings with that.
Excitement and anticipation as kickoff for next season gets closer and closer.
And if you're wondering where your school will be, we do have a full outline inside this story on our website. Fran?
Connor, this was the 3rd and final realignment draft. Could anything change from here?
It could, but we're not expecting any major changes. Schools still have the chance to appeal one more time before they're confirmed, but after that, the proposal can get confirmed.
All right, thanks for that update.